All right, everybody. I hope everybody is having a wonderful Saturday. This is James Pelton, and I'm here. This is an AMA. We have a little bit of a surprise here in a minute. This is not like most AMAs, though, because I've already had the Godfather from MDB on before. So this is less of an AMA and more kind of an update of what is going on since our last AMA and kind of see how MDB is doing. I did look. And MDB over the last 90 days has been my best performing crypto asset. So, and that was kind of a surprise to me. I didn't even realize it, but when I was looking at the numbers, I was like, wow, that's crazy. So very cool. What I need from you guys, first off, we do have a big surprise. So stay tuned for that here in just a minute. Second off, I need you guys to hit like. You see the like button that is near the screen. I'm not quite sure I think right below it, right on the right side. Click like. And then comment. We're going to just do where you're watching from because I never think of good questions before now. So go ahead and click like. Let me know where you're watching from. Get some comments going. If you have questions about MDB, I'd love to hear those. So we're gonna limit our questions to MDB this time. So no asking about drip, no asking about all my other million projects that I'm in. MDB only today. So and we do have a big surprise. So I hope everybody's ready. Can we get a drum roll going here? I guess I'm the only one that you can hear. So here we go. Boom. The Godfather, face and all. I think this is the first time that face on camera. So welcome, the Godfather. How are you doing here today?
Petrified, I'll be honest.
Well,
no, fantastic. Obviously, the project's doing great. The protocol's working great. Community's brilliant. Team are doing a great job. So, aside from the natural nerves of doing this today, everything else is good.
Well, you have a good face. It shouldn't be just behind a black screen. You should put it out there. So I'm glad that you are officially doxxed now, face doxxed. Yep. So very excited about that. Very happy to have you. For people who don't know you, I think there's a lot of people from your community here, but I think there's probably some people who don't know MDB, don't know who you are, don't know that this is a big deal. Do you want to start just kind of by introducing yourself?
Yeah. Sort of me personally, I suppose, to MDB, if you don't know us, we've been around for a couple of months. I think probably 10, 11 weeks since launch. I suppose me personally, I gave up my life to come and do this and set up this project. I've been involved in crypto kind of in the background for a little while. Been an investor in various projects over the last couple of years, and ultimately, I see a huge amount of opportunity. I think when you see my profile in the next few days, we'll release my LinkedIn profile, and you'll be able to see my career and where I've worked. And I've worked in sort of Fortune 500 businesses, and then I've worked sort of in a startup environment, taking very small sort of scale ups through their cycle and then through various fundraisings rounds, etc. And I think what you'll see is a pattern of me being attracted to industries that have the ability to change the world as we know it. Actually, this is sort of the third project that I've worked in a row. Maybe I'll share that. So the last industry I was in was additive manufacturing. So it's in the software space, which is, if you know anything about 3D printing on an industrial scale, has a huge ability to change the world. And before that, I ran an electric vehicle charging business for a Fortune 500 company. So, and now crypto. So, I see a huge amount of good within the space, a huge amount of opportunity, but also quite unfortunately, there's it's also very challenging for a number of reasons. So really, MDB, Make DeFi Better, is us having a crack at building something that's sustainable, responsible, ethical, and ultimately, I've given up my career. I was a chief revenue officer a few months ago, and walked in one day and handed in my notice, just as we were taking investment from a Fortune 100 business. So my boss almost fell off his chair, and here I am. And it's really a project that's built on ambition, really, to deliver on those promises.
Okay, very cool. And there's some debate if when you are fully doxxed, will you still go by the Godfather or Daddy, or will you start using your real name?
I've never been comfortable with anyone but my own children calling me Daddy, but I think a nickname's always going to stick. But we've got this is kind of stage one of our journey. We're just about to go into stage two with more B2B solutions with DeFi, and then stage three will be, you know, a real pivot into real world applications. So I think we, you know, and I like to do everything with a smile on my face, so we'll always have a bit of fun, but there definitely has to be a professional direction to what we're doing as well.
Yes, and some people, they say you look like the guy from Avatar, and I have to agree. You kind of do. I don't know that actor's name, but you do kind of look like
Is that
him.
when he's the Avatar, or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when he's the Avatar. I was trying to find a picture of him, but I can't get it. So, all right. Well, very cool. Well, I'm excited that you chose my channel to dox yourself. That's super cool, and we're happy to have you and happy to see you face to face. Okay, Sam Worthington. Let me just settle this real quick. Okay, Sam Worthington, and then I'll share my screen. Okay, here's a picture of Sam Worthington. And then we're going to compare, and then we'll talk about MDB. I don't want to get too distracted, but just a little distracted.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons actually we were kind of nervous about doxing. We didn't want it to become like a bit of a circus around us. You know, it's very much about the project.
Oh yes. Well, I'm not helping with that goal at all. Okay, so this is the last thing. You do look like Sam Worthington though, so that's a compliment. Very much.
That is a huge compliment.
Yes. All right, so let's talk about the project again for people who don't know what MDB is. Do you want to kind of just give a 10,000 foot view of what you set out to build?
Yeah, and I think I probably covered I suppose the ambitions and what we're motivated by. Really, then I suppose you know there's very good reasons why most projects fail, and many projects even fail with the best intentions and good teams and so on. So we spent a lot of time looking at the major reasons projects fail, and we came up with sort of $1 million babies, sort of the first token in the ecosystem, and ultimately it's kind of cheekily called $1 million baby because in truth, mathematically, as long as you know you manage it in the right way, eventually someone's going to become a millionaire, right? Because or many people become millionaires because it uses a system called capital synergy. So it's very safe. Ultimately, it's a token that is very difficult to break. It can't be killed by whales. You know, if your biggest whale sold, they would short term cause you some impact, but long term the project would actually speed up in terms of its long term objectives. It would probably shorten that timescale to people becoming millionaires, while short term it would be challenging. And then what we've done is built an ecosystem around it to kind of keep it simple. And really, you know, we recognize that people are of different flavors. Sometimes we get out of the bed in the morning and we feel different ourselves. Sometimes we feel like a DJ, and other times we feel like playing it safe. And you'll see within our Xenia platform, which I'm sure we'll talk about, that we've got different tokens with different risk profiles. So it's very open, it's very clear, but ultimately it's underpinned. Everything feeds back to MDB, the token, and it's, you know, a very responsible, safe system where we use, you know, capital ratios to offer huge potential upside, but very low downside risk if you're monitoring the ratios very carefully.
Okay, so you guys have been launched here for a couple of months. How do you feel like things have been going since you launched? Has everything kind of gone according to plan? Have there been some, you know, curveballs that you had to go through, or kind of how do you feel about the chart and things like that?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably a perfect example. I would have encouraged you to bring up the 4-hour chart. You can see, you know, we designed the protocol in full knowledge of how the game works, and you can see we were botted at launch, unfortunately, but you know, we won't go over that again. And also, you know, in amongst the bots people don't want to talk about, there was loads of people who get in on whitelist and want to flip on everybody else, and so you see that initial spike at the start. We then started that sort of responsible curve upwards, you can see, and there's kind of 3 peaks, and we're on the 3rd peak at the moment. You see the first one, we went a day into the Terra Luna issue. We were a top gainer on CMC because everyone was red and we were up 25%, but it just got too much, right? And eventually people look in their wallets and they go, I need liquidity. Oh, this one isn't down. let's take this one. So eventually that ate into us, and obviously being responsible, we're not going to plow into those situations. You kind of stand back and let sort of the hysteria pass to a certain degree. And then, you know, we built momentum again. You can see that second curve. and then the crash happened right at the top of that curve. So we built fantastic momentum, probably a lot more responsibly than the first climb, because it was over the space of a good few weeks. So it was very steady, very responsible, and we're going in the right direction. And then you can see that the crash happened. So we've built momentum twice. We've proved that we can go through the worst of the market, and hopefully you can see that third rise that we're on at the moment. And actually the market isn't pumping by any stretch. If the market can just at least not be horrendous, you can see that our protocol is working very well and doing its job. So hopefully with a bit of stability, we continue on that curve we are at the moment. And yeah, there's probably 10 things we'd do differently that would make a difference. But you know, you only like first impressions. You only get to launch once, and you know, it's been a learning experience, obviously, but I think we've fared pretty well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I just want to show kind of what I saw the other day that so BioFi is pumped, so they have passed you. But if you look at, these are like a list of most of my assets, and most of them are down 50, 60, 40%. And there's two there at the top. BioFi has pumps recently, but $1 Million Baby up in 24 hours, up in 7 days, up in 30 days, and up 20% over 90 days. So while the rest of the market's been crashing around us, you know, people love Horde, and you guys actually, you know, Horde over the last 90 days is down 10%. You guys are still up 20%. So yeah, I saw that and just thought it was pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think it's also still, you know, we got a report, we do a daily report, and it came out about half an hour ago. And even though, you know, we look at liquidity backed, but we also look at market cap backed, because that's, you know, that's also really, really important. I think you can do what you like with your liquidity and create certain ratios. But so we look at that figure, and actually at the bottom of those troughs that you see on the chart, our liquidity has been backed. With liquidity being a very healthy part of the market cap as well, our liquidity has been back sometimes nearly 700%. Even today, where we've kind of ×2 in the last 14 days, our liquidity is still back today about 470%. So converse is very much the opposite of kind of what you normally see in the project. When we hit that bottom, when we're like really low, our market cap at one point was like 70% backed by the funds that we had in the protocol, like, which is crazy, right? It's crazy. Most of these stable tokens don't have that much backing. So I would always encourage people to watch those ratios, because you know, often doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing is a great way of making money with MDB.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very cool. All right. So we had a few topics of discussion that you wanted to maybe some of the new things. I don't know if you want to start with, do you want to start with the NFTs and we'll kind of go from there, or what do you what new thing do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, let's talk about the NFTs. I think you know, NFTs interestingly it was never originally in our roadmap. It was probably sort of like community driven, if anything. And then like we always do, you know, we like to look at something, look at how successful it typically is, and then really get into why doesn't it work. And through that process, actually, we come up with this design for our NFTs and the mechanics, where it could be really good for the protocol, and it could also be really good for the holder. And so we've got a mint of 500, albeit we allowed the mint to run to about 200, and then we've paused it, because really the goal with the NFT is that it pays a passive income to the holder, but also that the NFT becomes a secondary asset rather than just buying MDB. And the way it works is that you own the NFT, there's a certain amount of MDB locked into the contract, and because you're feeding liquidity into the ecosystem as well, it becomes like this kind of circle that you're accelerating with the mint of the NFT. So, like, curiously, without giving the details away, because the rewards aren't due for another couple of weeks, and the rewards are paid every 30 days, and the supply is locked in the contract. We're in a position now where the MDB that will be in the NFT contract for that first sort of partial mint we did is actually worth more than the amount that we raised from the mint, and that's because we're kind of using capital in a very clever way. So the idea is you hold the NFT, it pays you rewards for life. As our supply burns down, the contract feeds out rewards on a monthly basis to all of the holders. And I think you'd be reasonable to expect, we'd hope, estimated NFA, all that stuff, about 30% a year in return. But we're also very responsible. So the idea is that you can make money from it, but you could also go and sell it on the open market. You'd hope for more than you bought it for as well.
Okay, very cool. And yeah, audience, please do hit like. I see we got a lot of new people hopping on here, so that's awesome. They're checking out. This is the doxing of the Godfather, so very excited. This was actually, I remember you mentioning this a while ago, but I had forgotten that you were going to do that here today, or I would have hyped it up even more. But yeah, I got a lot of people hopping on. Hit like. If you have questions about MDB, please do ask, and we'll bring those up as time allows. So then, yeah, very excited about the staking that just opened up this week. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you go to our platform Xenia, where all of these assets, NFTs will be on in about the next week or so, but you can see all of the assets that are on there. I suppose if you look at capital synergy, that really is the utility for MDB and drives up the value over time and provides an insurance policy. But what we wanted to do is to create a way that people like APY, they want passive income. We don't mint new supply. We're hyperdeflationary. We've burnt about 10% of our supply organically, and ultimately we set up staking. So it's very simple. You stake your tokens. You can see, I think, a crazy amount of our supply has been staked, and it only launched on Thursday evening. So we're not even 48 hours in. I think probably 40-50% of our supply has been staked in that single staking pool. You get a percentage of taxes that are fed back to you. The rest of the taxes go into the trust fund, which obviously drives sort of the growth of the project long term. And also there's a 30-day lockup, and if you can leave within 30 days, but you pay a 5% fee, and that's distributed out to everybody else that's locked up. So it's proven hugely successful, because I think many protocols offer great rewards for owning the token, and quite often you lock up the token and it's how much is this going to dilute as they're minting supply and potentially things like that can happen. Whereas because ours is deflationary, you've almost got this compound effect of value should be driven up over time, whilst you're getting more of something that is becoming, it's almost like a gold mine, really. There is only so much MDB in existence, and it's going to be reducing.
Okay, very cool. And you talked about it, so I want to just can you talk about what the capital synergy is? Just since you mentioned it, if you mention it, we got to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, capital synergy is really, I suppose, the mechanism that our protocol is designed upon, which is, it's a combination of two things that together are greater than the sum of their equal parts, basically. So, when we started, for anyone that doesn't know MDB, I know it's probably going over old ground for many people. When we launched, one of the things that we did, we recognized this is a big sort of risk with any project, is when they take significant capital out of the raise before they even get going. So you already start, it's like starting a business and you owe the bank $400,000, right? So we looked at it and said, okay, well, what if we just start in the black, and then we don't have to do that? So we took every cent that was raised and we split it 5 parts trust fund, 1 part liquidity. And therefore, then the trust fund has a really overbearing impact on liquidity, which means that you'll see a slowdown as price goes up, as the burn happens, but you wouldn't see the same sort of like grind to a halt that you see in other protocols, because actually the value of the token would mean higher value of taxes, which means more in the trust fund, and that cycle continues. So that's what capital synergy is. It's just combining two different factors together to create something more powerful.
Okay, gotcha. And audience, I will get to your questions as we get going here. So don't worry. You can ask them again if I keep ignoring them. But so we had some questions about what these different tokens are. So you talked about MDB. Do you want to talk about MDB Plus and kind of the vision behind that and its purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, MDB Plus is a very low tax token. It's like 0.75% in, it's 0.25% out. And actually, we've been working for the last 6 weeks, almost like the guinea pig for MDB Plus, and that it creates a number of different revenue streams for us. So the goal is that it creates 4 revenue streams for our protocol, and the first 3 are fairly simple, right? So we have 40% of our LP is paired to MDB Plus, which is why we haven't tracked the market as much as other people, because 40% of our LP is always appreciating in value. It can't go down. And at the same time, it's also a fantastic investment for us. So, we've got, speaking to our treasury manager, we're banging our head against a brick wall about where can we put money and get anything near what we're getting from MDB Plus. It's a genuine challenge. So that's another income. And then we're also then able to arb between the two pools, which creates further passive income for the protocol. And we can, part of Synergy Solutions is actually we take that out to the market. And EMP is our first partner, actually. So shout out to EMP, fantastic group of guys, great protocol, great team. And they've been using MDB Plus to pair with eShare. And the fourth revenue stream is then we'll use that, we'll build on that foundation to move into real world applications when we've got scale. And ultimately, all partners, just to do a little pitch, that come into using MDB Plus as a B2B asset, not only do you get the first three benefits, but the fourth one will be that you get equity in that real world business as well.
Okay, very cool. And then do you want to talk about what a Phoenix Plus is? That's another question.
Yeah, so Phoenix Plus is like a very aggressive version of MDB Plus. The difference being that you can be cashed out of it at some point. So it's the tax is 2% in, 2% out, which is 400% of what it is for MDB Plus. So that's why you can see that it's been running for 2 days and it's already up 8%. And you can see the APY is a crazy number. So, but if people buy or sell, it pushes up that price really quickly. So it's a fantastic asset to play around with. If we call it an inferno, if the contract cashes everybody out, then you would receive an extra 2% on top of the 2% impact on top of the sell percentage anyway. So there's a little bit of a gamification with it. It's got very high APY, but you could be cashed out. It's not going to happen soon. People seem to be standing back, expecting it's going to happen all of the time. You can be very sure that Phoenix Plus is designed to deliver very high interest very quickly with very low exposure, maximum 6%.
Okay, very cool. All right, so we talked about the NFTs, talked about Xenia. Do you want to talk about refi, and then I'll start bringing up some of the audience questions?
Yeah, refi. Sorry, when you say refi, what do you mean?
I don't know. It's just in our calendar. MDB's B2B services suite.
Oh yes, yeah.
It's on our agenda.
Yeah, sorry, that's my fault. We've dropped that actually. So that was
okay. I'll take that off the agenda then. All right. Well, awesome.
Well, no, to be fair, it's Synergy Solutions is what it is now. So
okay.
Finance Reimagined was sort of we've dropped it, so it's irrelevant. The Synergy Solutions is basically us. We've incubated these solutions within our own protocol, and now we can offer them to other protocols. And they don't, we're not going to walk and say, okay, we've got to sign a check for $100,000 or anything crazy like that. It's completely free of charge. It helps you. It helps your holders. It helps us. And fits with our vision, and that's what Synergy Solutions really is. We offer marketing services. We can offer NFT projects from design through to mint, and really it's just a B2B suite of applications.
Okay, very cool. And I do give props to MDB. It is my favorite token to buy. So it's just so much. It's so much. Sometimes I just buy some just for the fun of it, but you can just send BNB to this address, and then MDB comes into your wallet. I like it. It's a lot of fun for me. So let's start bringing up some audience questions. And you guys, if you have other things you want to know, please bring them up. The first thing is, could you talk more about the Yield Nodes partnership, what that's going to look like?
Yeah, and I'm sure that's probably come from someone in the community who's asked the question many times already. The simple answer is we don't have details yet. We're in dialogue with the CEO there, and they've got their audit actually in the next week. So there's lots of things going on. There's lots of options on the table, and those discussions are ongoing at the moment.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'm heading out to Malta tomorrow for the audit. Yeah, so I'm going to meet the team and kind of look through what they're doing a little bit. So I'll keep you informed. Do you want to talk about potential buy pressure? Where does buy pressure come from MDB? What kind of revenue streams, I guess, would be a question that go along with that?
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think we talk about all of these things, and if you're new to MDB, you probably think, wow, what is all this stuff? But if we just simplified it within our white paper, you'll see there's this ecosystem. Really, everything that we're doing is about driving income back to MDB. We want to reduce the supply as quickly as possible. So, income streams are interest from the trust fund. We also have Gravity. So, Gravity, we've Gravity is basically a rescue mechanism, which has worked like brilliantly actually. So Oracle Finance recently was the last one, and some very happy holders actually there at at the end of that project's life who have then been absorbed. That also creates new income for the protocol. So in fact, we need to do a bit better reporting, but between MDB plus, the other assets that we're launching as well, Gravity and trust fund interest, our external income, if you forget sort of buys and sells, has been north of six figures each month that we've been live actually. So we've we always set out to design basically a business that we want people to buy, obviously, but even if they didn't, then the protocol will eat itself. We could all switch off our wallets and go away, and no one ever buys or sells again, and come back in a few years, and it would be probably 1,000x.
Okay, yeah, very cool. And then where do we track the price of Phoenix Plus? And I believe you can see it in the app, the Xenia app. So
it's live in there. You can see the live price. You can also see a live APY, which is showing the same for the 7-day and 24. I think it might be from launch in 7 day, but that's because you're within that time period.
Gotcha. Nope, makes a lot of sense. And then a question about NFTs. Will there ever be an option to have our APY deposit directly into Xenia?
Potentially, yeah. I think we could potentially look at an addition where you could connect your wallet. We're looking at this with the team already, where you connect your wallet, it knows that you've got NFTs. You could select auto stake, and every month you receive your rewards, and it auto stakes, which would actually it give you a compound effect actually of the two utilities together. So we are exploring it.
Okay. All right. And then this is a great question. I was wondering this myself. So in your opinion, not financial advice, but what's a good way to split money? Like if you're wanting to get involved, how would you kind of think about splitting money between the different options that are there now? Again, not financial advice, but just how would you think through that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think if you tip all your cash out on the table that you're prepared to put into crypto, then the question I would ask you is, what's your risk appetite? Risk, and anybody, one of the reasons I love James actually is I don't want to say anything that's going to piss off other YouTubers, but I'm fond of James, let's say, and the way he approaches things is in like a really balanced, sensible way. And in life, the way the universe works, if you want some reward, you have to make a bit of sacrifice and take some risks, and that's really what MDB is. So I think if you decide how much of that pot you want to be risky or low risk, you can start on the left. MDB Plus is as zero risk as you can get in crypto, right? It's BUSD backed. The LP is locked in the contract. Nobody can get it out. It's impossible to get it out other than redeeming your MDB Plus tokens, and it's growing fairly healthily, right? So MDB Plus is like your no risk. Phoenix Plus is very low risk because you'd have to be the last person to have bought and nobody is sold, and then there's an inferno for you to lose a maximum of 6%. So that's extremely low risk exposure for something that, as you can see, in 48 hours, the first investors are already up 8%, right? So that's a low risk, good reward. I think MDB, it really depends on the ratios. If it's dipping hard, then it becomes very low risk because there's a natural flaw because of the way capital synergy works. It's very difficult for it to go below a certain level, but the upside potential is infinite. So I would say, if you pick the right entry point with MDB, then I would call it medium risk at the moment. But if it was down where it was 12 days ago, I'd call it very low risk at that point. And if we went times 10, then it starts looking a bit higher risk. So pick your entry point. I'd say it's medium risk, but very high upside potential longer term. And that's typically how I'd approach it. We do have Infinity, so we do want to launch something that's just completely degen, big red X on the door, only go in if you've lost your mind. Yes. And there'll be huge opportunity to make money in there. There'll also be huge opportunity to lose money because that is the way the universe works. So, but at the moment, probably your highest risk is MDB, but that is also, a pretty good investment, I would say, at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So, you kind of diversification is always something that I recommend. So, MDB is going to be a little bit probably riskier. There's going to be more volatility, but there's higher upside. MDB Plus, like you said, is going to be lower volatility, but you're going to probably make less. If MDB moonshots, MDB Plus is probably not going to moonshot the same way. And then these numbers are probably going to change as the TVL goes up, I assume. So like, don't just look at this and think, oh man, I'm going to get 26,000% APY forever on that. And kind of same with this here, that'll probably go down a bit as the TVL goes up. I would have gotten into this, except for I already had a lot of MDB tokens and I didn't want to sell them to get BNB. So I put all my MDB tokens in here, but I think that's helpful way to think through it. So appreciate that.
Yeah, and the farm probably is another asset. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Staking's a no-brainer. If you've already bought MDB, then you stake it. It's good for the protocol. It's good for you. But the farm brings impermanent loss risk, but also it brings much more upside probably than the staking pool. And again, if you divvy up that money that you've poured out on the table into those groups, and sometimes you just want to go all out, and I think it's for you to make that call.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, you get a higher APY here, but like you said, there's impermanent loss. So if MDB skyrockets, then you won't realize all those gains that you would if you just had MDB. So there's always just risk reward ratios that, like you said, you just have to figure out where you're at on it. And I like diversification, but it's kind of up to your risk profile. Next question is, do you still have a partnership with Sphere?
That's a good question. I think there's a number of options on the table to work with them. I think, I've had a couple of conversations with Sim recently, and I suppose the ball's in their court. There's probably, I think people know that we definitely made some investments, and there's definitely a set of expectations that came with those investments, and I think for us to put more into it, as much as we love a bit of hype and exposure, at the same time, I'm a patron of other people's money. So I think, to be very blunt, that's really with Sim, and for us to invest more into that partnership, then we need to see something back, which I think is fair, right?
I will stay out of it, but that seems reasonable to me for sure.
I'm interested in any partnership that is reciprocal. Okay,
gotcha. And then Marvin wants to know, how do you know when to sell Phoenix because of the Inferno?
Well, if you knew, then it wouldn't be a gamble. So yeah, I think if you go to like a horse race, there's a bookie there. He's really just handling money between people who've got different opinions, and Phoenix Plus really it's like a mechanism between different people. I think one thing I would say is that it's not something that's going to happen all of the time. It's important that people can go into it and make some money, and perversely, if there's lots going in there, then people will make their money and then they'll leave, and when they leave, they'll also push up the value of your holding by leaving. So there was a lot of sell downs. The growth would be really aggressive. So I think look, for me, I would say, look, I would go all in with Phoenix, to be honest. I think if I was an investor and it wasn't my project, I'd think, well, I'm going to chuck in a big chunk, and what's the worst that can happen? And then I'll look back and then maybe strategize based on what happens.
There you go. That's how I like to do it. Go all in, and then you have to figure it out later. So again, not financial advice, but people are kind of wondering what you see as maybe the price end of year or market cap, or where do you kind of see MDB going here in the next, we'll say 3 months? That's a long enough time in DeFi to make predictions.
I think there's a number of different factors. We could probably come up with a price calculator, and maybe you select a box and you say, will the market be bad, good, or middle? And all of those things have an impact. I think what's been shown is that we can outperform the market and still be very sustainable. So I would expect that if the market is where it is today or better, then we would hope to continue to outperform it. In terms of maybe a personal goal, because I'm always nervous about this, I think for me, I would like to see a times 10 in the next 6 months, because I I think I've shared this before, and it's probably no surprise to people, but I don't want to times 100 and there to be like a 95% risk ratio, because the number in everybody's wallet is backed by such a small percentage of real world funds. So I think we like a little bit of risk. That's why we're in this game. But for me, I think that building, if the market's good to us, I think we can build a times 10, and I can still go to bed at night feeling like, well, that's something that we can sustain long term. Whereas if we're times 100 by a year end, it'll feel great, but it's just math, right? Someone's gonna take the money at some point, and you're gonna see a big dip.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you? So, how do you think through the way to take profits on something like MDB? Because you want to, be taking some profits off.
Yep.
Do you, sell a certain amount every so often, or how should people be thinking through that? We don't want to hurt the price, but we do want to take, profits from time to time, especially if we start, 10xing. We should be taking some profits out. How do you think through that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, look, I think if you look at the burn rate, the interesting thing about our protocol is that when we need supply so you'll notice in our trust fund that, it's a big no-no in DeFi to have your own tokens in your trust fund and count it. Now, we always have a balance of our own tokens in our trust fund, and we do count it. And the reason we count it is because we've tactically swapped currency for it, right? It's not, we haven't got it under the table, and if we need supply for Gravity or an NFT or contract or whatever utility we've got planned, then we need to acquire that supply, and we have to go onto the market just like everybody else. And so I think the reason I'm sharing that is because money going in drives the deflation, so the deflationary nature of the supply. And so therefore, if you look at the percentage that you own, so if you go into BSC scan, if you owned, people know my wallet started off at 5.1% of supply and is now 5.6. If I was a private investor, which, by the way, I have no interest in selling for, I think I'd struggle to sell at all, to be honest. But if I was a private investor and I wanted to be responsible, and I wanted to not continue accumulating the percentage of supply, then I would probably look at the difference between 5.1 and 5.6 and sell some of that. But you've got staking on top of that now, so it almost accelerates the amount of supply that you can accumulate by staking that. So I think if you really believe in the protocol long term, what I would do is I would stake, and I would probably sell my staking rewards and see my holding going up as a percentage of supply. And I know I'm getting a bigger piece of that pie in the future. And if I need cash, but I don't want to really eat in, then I'd probably look at what percentage of supply I own, and I'd sell the extra plus the staking rewards.
Okay, no, that's super helpful. So always a good idea to take profit, but never want to take too much, especially with the potential that's there. You hate to take too much off the table before. And it's always hard for me too. I know this is a good problem to have, but if something 10x's, how much profit do you take? Because it might, 20x. And so that's always that's a good problem to have. We haven't had that problem with a lot of tokens for a while. So
I suppose people always, it's interesting psychology, isn't it? Because when Bitcoin's at 65K, everybody predicts it at 100, and when it's at 17K, everyone predicts it at 10. And the easiest predictions in the world are kind of a reflection of what's happening around you at that point in time, just more of what's happened in the last week, when in truth probably doing a bit of the opposite is always the smartest thing to do.
Right. Yeah, we definitely psychologically have a bias towards what just happened is going to continue to happen, and it's not usually the case. In fact, it's hardly ever the case that what just happened is going to happen again. So, and then Blocktest says there's a great profit-taking strategy in the white paper. So I'll have to check that out. I don't remember seeing that, so I'll check that out. Very cool. And if you're watching this, I forgot to welcome, if you're watching this as a replay, thank you guys for also hit the like button and leave a comment. And we won't be able to answer it live, obviously, if you're watching it as a recording. But I look back at comments and try to answer them later. So we'll ask this one: is staking locked?
Yeah. It's not locked actually. You can come out, but there's a a 30-day, we say lock, but it's you can unpick the lock just with a 5% penalty. So it's kind of semi-locked. It's locked behind a penalty if you come out before the 30 days.
Yeah, I like that. Semi-locked. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then would you ever create ability to borrow or take loans on MDB assets? When you start talking about stable coins, especially, lending and borrowing starts coming to people's mind. Do you have any plans for that in the future?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it makes me really nervous. I think because you if you start using capital numerous times, then everything comes with risk. And I think most of the problems that you see in the market today is because you go and knock on the door of the organization you lent it to, and there's all the furniture's gone and the game's up, and that's now your problem. So that's why you see these crashes, because it's very similar to the financial crash back in 2009, is because so many people are leveraged on the same capital, and then there's a squeeze on capital liquidity, and then the impact is exponential. And that's basically what's happened in the market right over the last sort of 6 weeks. So I'm very nervous of it, because I kind of it's exciting in the run up, everybody's making money, printing money basically, but I think probably if it was my own personal money, I'd take more risk. But when you're holding on to other people's capital, then for me, I'd rather be able to go to sleep at night and know that there's been no flash loan attack or anything like that. So maybe explore kind of later on, but I think it's not a priority right now. Stability is the key.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can open up the protocol to a lot of risk when you open that up too, because people who didn't want to sell get liquidated, and then they end up selling. They didn't want to. And so you look at like what happened to Olympus. They got into that same kind of problem with too many people borrowing. They, bought into it too much, and then it can wreck a protocol too. So I wouldn't be against it, but it's definitely something you want to get into carefully and well thought out. Just want to throw it out there. Shane wants to know, is there any plans to show Phoenix mega buys in Xenia?
It's a good question. I think we need to think about that. I think probably, I talked about lessons. One of our, and we talk about it as a team, we're very open about it, is we're maybe because we're a bit more mature, a bit older than most teams in the industry. We're very guilty of just doing things. So we're like, we paired 40% of our LP against a stable asset ages before lots of other people. But we just did it. We did it on like a Sunday night. Oh, we should do this. Yeah, let's do it. It makes financial sense. And we got everybody together and we made it happen. And we just drop out a simple announcement. And so I think, for instance, in the last couple of weeks, we've had to accumulate supply. And actually, there's probably still a deficit on hand, where the Phoenix actually probably needs somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 of supply for utilities and projects that we've got coming up in the next 4 weeks. So we need to publicize that a lot better, I think, so people can see in action other projects. We look at them and we think, oh wow, they're able to make a molehill look like a mountain. If we could learn from that a little bit, I think it wouldn't be a bad thing.
Okay, yes. And talking about security, has Xenia been battle tested before launch? Are there extra protections against hacks?
Yeah, absolutely. And we like to double layer things as well. So quite often, obviously we have smart contracts. We go and get them independently audited. We're working with an individual who audits us as an organization as well. And in addition, even when you look at it's boiling hot in the UK, by the way. It's going to touch 40 degrees Celsius in the next few days. So all windows are open. So, but yeah, the simple answer is yes, and we always double layer things. We don't, so even with the D app, then we have a very technical consultant then going through it completely independently from the team that have built it, and providing sort of feedback on things that they see. So it's definitely being tested, but not just by the people that have built it.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, and just for the stupid Americans out there, converted Celsius to Fahrenheit, so 104 Fahrenheit. So yeah, very, very hot. So stay cool. Can you detail bonds again? I think they mean, can you give the details about bonds again? Yes.
Yeah, so bonds will hit Xenia. We hope, we're trying to do so many things at once. That they will hit Xenia most likely on Tuesday. To feel uncomfortable saying, because that's my joke answer when people ask when something's going to happen, but it genuinely is planned for Tuesday. And the way bonds will work is that you buy a bond through Xenia. It's a minimum purchase of 10 BNB, and there is only one bond available per 24-hour period. So if you're there on Tuesday when it goes live and you buy a bond for say 20 BNB, it will take your BNB, it will buy MDB with it, and then it will be held within the contract for 60 days. But you get that MDB tax free. And then at the end of 60 days, basically, it's vested, you'll receive your MDB and you're free to do what you like with it. So it's a tax-free purchase, very limited in nature. And then as soon as you're on Xenia, it'll actually kick off a countdown. So if, for instance, on one day somebody say the countdown's over and nobody buys the bond for say 6 hours, when that bond is purchased, then it triggers a 24-hour countdown. So it's basically a tax-free purchase, but it's vested for 60 days, minimum 10 BNB. And once one is bought, then it kicks down 24 hours. It's just so that we don't create the situation where it's not good economically. It's good to generate new capital, but if you generate too much capital at a discount, then you can create exposure for yourself. So it balances out quite nicely over time.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, so if you're wanting to put in over 10 BNB and you're wanting to hold it for at least 60 days, then the bonds might be a good option for you. All right, very cool. Can we pull rewards from the LP farm without a fee?
Yeah, so the
Is that an ice cream truck or what? What is that? An ice cream truck. Wow, it must be hot. If you got the ice cream truck, come around. I miss ice cream truck. Leave a comment. Hashtag I miss ice cream trucks. Are those still around? I've not seen one for a long time.
Yeah, we're quite old school in the UK. We like our traditions. So I'm going to kill him next time I see him. But yeah, you can't. My house is 3 stories as well. So the top floor it just collects all of the heat. So on a day like this, it's torture in the office. Yeah, anyway, so you asked about taking out of the farm. So there's a fee if you unpair within 5 days. So there's a 5% fee. There is a fee going into the farm, but so you'll pay basically a sell tax of 15% going into the farm. But then the rewards are extremely aggressive. So it's it's kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I think probably the people that are in the farm first, they're probably going to see that tax back in a few days. Actually, it's really aggressive, the rewards that are going in there at the moment. But yeah, so it's a 5% in 5 days.
Okay, very cool. And then what kind of marketing are you doing? Are you going into different countries, or what's kind of the marketing strategy other than AMAs with James Pelton here?
I was going to say, I thought it was just an ironic question, but I think when you look at those curves, right, those curves are not by accident. It's a combination of different things: community team, the protocol, and also then marketing push. So we've been very sensible and pulled back on marketing investments. And there's a range of different things that we do. So I think on Monday we've got an AMA with Kryptonaires, I think, on Monday. So we're getting back on the road, going around every investment group that we did AMAs with in the previous pushes. So that's number one. Number two is obviously we work with fantastic sort of YouTubers like James to try and support responsible protocols. And then we're looking at ads again, actually. So we're looking at running ads this week. I think because of the launch of Xenia, we've got I think ads have to have a really simple message to get that click rate. And now we've obviously got some fantastic APYs. So we're going to invest a bit more in ads this week. But also when you look at website traffic, it's so down on what it was a couple of months ago. So we still have to remain cautiously optimistic. But yeah, pulling marketing on a number of different fronts.
Okay, very cool. Well, hey, I think that's about all the questions that I have for you. If anybody else has some last minute questions, you can ask those real quickly. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we kind of closed up shop here.
Is there anything that we want to talk about? Look, I think I think without being sort of too principled, I just want to underline again, the reason we're doing this. And we've seen one project as another exploit in the last 24 hours, and look, I think we're in this space. One of the most frustrating things about doing this is fighting with projects that really don't care about their investors for their investment. So I just want to, now people can see me, is just underline that message that we're doing this because we want to sort of bond together with people that have strong values and do some good within this space. And we'll always put the investor first, all of the investors. And yeah, we hope to see you within MDB, and we're gonna be at this for a very long time as well. So just underline that we that's our ambition and that's our commitment to all investors.
Okay, very cool. Then maybe I'll float this because somebody else asked it. When you getting in the ring? Do we want to float it out there, kind of some of your thoughts around this comment?
Yeah, so I suppose it depends on somebody else. I think the ambition is to have a DeFi boxing tournament. I think the best start is to have one other person who is probably as stupid as I am to get in the ring for a bit of fun and for charity, and I'm prepared to do that. So I'm just waiting on one person who's kind of got their toe in the water to leap in. Maybe they wanted to see the video today to check that wasn't. So, yeah, roided up.
Yeah, I wanted to see your size before I agree to something like that. So I'm considering this DeFi boxing thing. I was really excited about it until I watched the movie The Warrior, and I saw people like getting punched. I've never been punched or anything. I've lived a pretty like simple life, and I saw them getting punched, and I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. So can you hold up your arm, like your bicep? Can I just see it?
No, nowhere near as big as yours, James. Nowhere near. So
all right. Well, I'll keep praying about it and considering, and we'll see if that happens.
But just interestingly, because this is James and I had the conversation, and a rush of blood. You're always excited at the time, and then immediately afterwards, I don't know about you, you think,
yeah,
what have I done? and yeah, so James and I almost embarrassingly asked, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? And we are almost exactly the same weight and the same height. Worryingly though, after you've just shown me your bicep, I think probably my fat to muscle ratio is probably a bit worse than yours.
Well, I have no boxing. Have you been punched before?
Yeah, I've got a brother that's 2 years older than me. So I think if you've got a brother that's relatively close in age, especially like my brother, then you've 99% of all the fights I've ever had in my life is with my brother. But I've no ring experience whatsoever. Like you
Okay.
Obviously look after yourself. There's been times in my life where I've looked after myself a little bit better, and that's about as far as it's gone.
Okay, well, we'll see about this. Yeah, I have 4 brothers, but I've never been punched. Never. I just
Are they
don't know
older
what it
or
feels
younger?
like. I have some that are pretty close. They're all younger, but
that's it.
maybe
So
they
you're
just,
the
maybe they
nice
just didn't
older
want to
brother.
mess with this, They didn't want to mess with it.
Neither do I. And delete Discord and disappear.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and let you go. If you do have other questions, somebody said the Discord is awesome. I had questions. They hopped in and answered it right away. So yeah, if you have further questions, it's very easy to buy. Again, with that swapper address, that's the easiest way, I think. I'll post a link to the Discord here. If you have other questions, or if you just want to, stay on top of all the announcements and things like that on whether or not this boxing is going to happen. But yeah, thank you, audience, first off, for showing up. You've been awesome. Please hit like on the way out. And Godfather, thank you, brother, for hopping on. Thanks for doxing yourself. It's good to see your face. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what MDB does going forward.
Yeah, no, thank you. I need to go and do some press ups.
Yes. We'll train. Either way, we'll start training. Okay. And we'll be ready if we decide to do this. So awesome. Thanks so much, brother. We'll talk to you later.